Hello everyone. Myself Dr. Veena RS, Associate Professor, Department of ISC, Dayanand Sagar Academy of Technology and Management, Bangalore. In this lecture video, we'll be learning Lab Program 5 of Object-Oriented Programming with Java, subject code BCS306A for third semester under VTU 2022 scheme. So before we start writing the program, let us discuss what the problem statement is and how we can analyze and how we can go ahead for writing the program. The lab program 5 statement goes something like this. Develop a Java program to create a class called shape. That means you need to create a class called as shape. Create 3 subclasses, namely circle, triangle, and square. And each class has 2 member functions named draw and erase. Demonstrate polymorphism concepts by developing suitable methods, defining member data, and main program. So what exactly it is expected out of this program is you have to create a class called as shape. From that particular class shape, you have to inherit 3 various subclasses called as circle, triangle, and square. And each of these subclasses should have 2 member functions called draw and erase. And you have to demonstrate polymorphism concepts by developing some suitable methods, some member data, and main program. So before we start writing the program as well, let us visualize it, how this program can go ahead with. And before that, we also should be able to know that as this program uses the concept of inheritance and polymorphism, what is it and how we can implement those features in this given program. Can see here, so just to talk about inheritance and polymorphism before we start writing the program, we have to just understand what is inheritance. So inheritance is what? It's one of the feature of object-oriented programming, which inherits the properties of one class into another. And this particular feature supports the concept of code reusability. So suppose you want to write a code multiple number of times in multiple classes and multiple methods. So instead of writing it everywhere, you can write the code only once and reuse that code wherever you want it, just by inheriting that particular class. So that is possible using one of the feature called as inheritance. The second feature of object-oriented programming is polymorphism. And what do you mean by polymorphism is many forms of the same name or many forms of one single name. So you have only one method name, but you will have many definitions of that particular method, many forms of that particular method. And as per the scenario or the situation demands, respective definition will be called. So when we talk about polymorphism, when we say that there are many forms of one single thing, one single name or one single method name, the polymorphism can occur at compile time or runtime. So you can just visualize it. So based on whether the polymorphism occurs at the compile time or runtime, you can call it as type of polymorphism. So if the polymorphism occurs during compile time, you call it as static binding or you call it as static polymorphism. And sometimes even during compile time, it will not know which particular definition of a method it should take into consideration for execution. Only during runtime, only during execution, it will be able to come to know. So that's why the second type of polymorphism comes here as runtime polymorphism, which is also called as dynamic binding or dynamic polymorphism. So when we talk about polymorphism, so in theory concepts also we have already discussed, or you people must be knowing about it. So compile time polymorphism example, you can call it as method overloading as well, where you can have more than one methods with the same name, but the difference between those methods will be either the methods will be having in difference with number of parameters or type of parameters. But when we say there is a runtime polymorphism and method definition will be decided only during execution, so you say that it is method overriding. So method overriding comes under runtime or dynamic polymorphism. And this method overriding will occur only when we have the feature implemented in the program as inheritance. That means you have one superclass, you have one subclass, and you want to write the same method name in superclass as well as subclass. So you call it as method overriding. So as the problem demands, we say that here in this problem statement, basically it talks about what? You have to actually create a class called a shape. That means you want to create one class called a shape which will act as a superclass. And three different classes will be inherited from that. That is circle, triangle, and square. So if you just visualize it, you can just say that we have circle is also a shape, triangle is also a shape, square is also a shape. So all these three are nothing but the parts of the shape. So we can have the common properties stored in one single class, that is in a superclass, that is shape, and subclasses can inherit those properties from the shape class. And it also demands that each of this class, each of this particular subclass should have two methods or two functions called as draw and erase. So draw method of circle will work with drawing the circle. Erase method of circle will work with erase of the particular subclass object, that is circle. So how do you do that? So that will be called as runtime polymorphism or method overriding, where you will be defining draw and erase methods in all these three subclasses, and which we are overriding the definition from the class called as shape, that is from the superclass. So after knowing what is inheritance, polymorphism, I'll also tell you that runtime polymorphism, that is method overriding, is something like this. You have, suppose, a class called as shape, and there is a method called as draw. So draw is a method which is defined in the class called as shape. Now we say that shape is acting as a superclass. That means there is inheritance between shape and other classes. So other classes are also written over here, like they are acting as subclasses, that is square class, circle class, and hexagon class. So all these three classes are inherited from shape class. And you can see in this particular visualization that you have in superclass also draw, you have draw method in circle class also, and you have draw method in hexagon also. And draw in shape also exists. So you say that if there is inheritance between the classes and you have the same type and the signature of the method from the parent class to the child class along with the same name, you say there is method overriding. And which particular method will be dispatched or which method particular will be executed will be known only during runtime based on the object what you are using with. So this is how you can visualize method overriding as well. So now using the both concepts, that is creating an inheritance and overriding, that means defining a method in the subclass which is having exactly the same name and the signature which is defined in the superclass. That is polymorphism or method overriding, we say. So the same concept we have to use it in our program, and we have to implement that program and execute it. So let us again visualize entirely in detail that how lab program 5 can be visualized as. You can say, problem says you should have a class called a shape. So, okay, class shape exists. This class shape should have two member functions or two methods called as draw and erase, as it is asking us to have a polymorphism from superclass to subclass, that is using method overriding. So draw and erase method to become the members of the subclasses, these two methods should also exist in the superclass. So we say that there are two methods, draw and erase, in the superclass called as shape. Now, there is an inheritance from shape to multiple classes. So what are the classes? We have circle, we have triangle, and we have square. So seeing this particular diagram, you can easily understand that we have a superclass called as shape, and we have subclasses called as circle, triangle, and square. And we have two methods defined in the superclass, that is shape. And to demonstrate polymorphism, these two methods, that is draw and erase, should be overridden with or overridden in the given classes like circle, triangle, and square. So I'll just show you. So circle class also has the methods called as draw and erase. Triangle and square classes will also have the method called as draw and erase. So if you see this diagram, if you keep it in your mind and analyze it, the same program you can write it and you can execute. We can say that all 4 classes we have listed it out. We have listed what are the members of the given class, whether it is a superclass or a subclass. Now this entire chart we can implement as a code in Java. So what we will do is, I'll just take you to IntelliJ IDE, where we will implement this problem statement from visualization to the program. So here I have created a file name called as shapemain.java. So name of the file which contains the main method, public static void main, that is main method, is from the class shapeMain. So now we have to invoke the objects of the shape class or circle or triangle or square in this particular shape main, and we have to demonstrate that. So what is the first step we say? We have to create a superclass called as shape. So we will just create a class with the name shape. This is one class. So what are the members of shape class? If you go through this diagram, you say that there are 2 methods I have listed here, that is draw and erase. Because if you don't have the method stored in the superclass, and if you just write these methods or define these methods in the subclass, it is definitely not called as method overriding. Overriding comes into picture only when you are defining the same methods from superclass to subclass. So it is now mandatory to demonstrate method overriding or polymorphism, as we have to define the methods draw and erase in shape class. So I'll just say suppose void, that means it is not returning any data or any data type. I'll just write a method called as draw. And what should be the definition here? What you want to happen whenever the draw method of the shape class with object is being invoked or called. So I'm just writing a simple message. Suppose I say, if I want to call a draw method from a shape class, I will write that maybe some message drawing a what you want to draw. That is nothing but shape, but we don't know whether the shape is either a circle or it is a triangle or it is a square. So what we can do is we can give the name to that particular shape, whichever shape you want to draw it. I'll just say suppose string is a variable which is name is a variable which is of type string, and I want, suppose this particular variable is to be accessed only within the shape class or in the subclass, I can make use of the access specifier called as protected. So protected type of access specifier will allow the member to be used within the class as well as in the subclass, but not outside the subclass as well as this parent class. Here I can just write name. So whichever the name, whether the shape is circle, triangle, or square, based on that name can be printed over here. This is about, suppose, the demonstration to be given for draw method. We have to write one more method called as erase. So I will write here void erase is a method, and in erase method, I just want to display again the message as system.out.println. I am erasing. Erasing what? Some particular shape. What is that shape? Is stored in a variable called as name. So how the name will be stored here? What is the name of the particular shape? So whenever you create an object of this class, we want name has to be set. So we can create a constructor. And this constructor should need the name of a shape, whether it is a circle, triangle, or square. So what we will do is, we will just write a parameterized constructor here with a variable name. So in this constructor, what we want, so whenever we create an object of this particular class, the name, whatever we are passing as a parameter, should become the instance variable. So we can simply write here, this dot name is equal to name. So this is what we have written the statement. So we have created one constructor, that to a parameterized constructor, in which it is accepting the name of a shape, and that name of a shape being a local parameter or parameter that is passed, stored as a instance variable value. So this is what a parent class is ready. That means this shape class is ready with draw, erase, and constructor. Now, after that, after creating a superclass that is shape, we have to now create 3 subclasses so that the attributes or the properties of a shape class that is a superclass can be accessed in the subclass. What is the first class here? What we have to inherit or create a subclass as circle. So I will write here, I want to create one more class called as circle. And notation wise, whenever you create a class, make sure that it starts with the capital case letters. And if the class name is more than one words, you can make every word's first character as capital case. And as far as methods are concerned, method starts with the small case letters. And if it is more than one word, the second word onwards, every word's first character will be capital case. So now we have just defined a class called as circle. Now, what should be the members of circle? We have to now again write the methods called as draw and erase. And as we are writing draw and erase and we want circle to be the subclass, inheritance has to be set. So how to make a relation or how to extend this particular class is using the keyword extends, and which is the parent class shape. So that means this class, circle class, becomes the subclass, whereas the shape class which you have defined above becomes the superclass. Now here what we will do is we will override the method. Which is the method you want to override is draw method. And one more method you want to override called as erase. Okay, so that means you have already defined draw and erase method in the shape class. Now you have extended shape class for the circle. That means you can redefine or you can override the methods of superclass in the subclass. So we have overridden two methods here, that is draw and erase. What is the definition for draw? What you want? So if we are drawing a circle, the message should come as drawing a circle. And circle has a specific member because the problem statement also talks about if you want to draw or if you want to demonstrate these polymorphism, it should have the proper data members also to be used. So what we can do here is name of the shape anyway will be there. That is, I'll just say, or here we will just pass it like that. I will just make use here as circle will have the additional data member that is radius. So I can just say maybe radius is of type double. So I'm just declaring one variable called as radius, which is of type double. And what we want is whenever the object of circle is created, the circle object should also have the name which has been inherited from the shape class. So what we can do is we can create a constructor here for the circle class also, in which the first parameter is name of the shape and the second one is what is radius. So I will be passing two parameters in this constructor. One is name of the shape as circle and the other one is called as radius. So here when we talk about name of the circle, so circle is nothing but a shape. And for shape, we have already written a constructor. So can I call for setting the name of a shape as circle that is from superclass constructor? Yes, that can be that we can do it. So we can always call the constructor of superclass in subclass using the keyword called as super. So I am just want to call a superclass constructor here, but which superclass constructor? That is parameterized. How many parameters? One parameter. What is the parameter that? That is name. So I will just write, I am just passing name here. So whenever you try to create an object of circle class, whatever the name is there, that is circle name, that will be passed it as a name of the shape to the parent class. And the radius of that particular object is nothing but the radius what you have passed in the parameter. So this is how we will write the constructor for circle. And what you want to draw now, or what in draw method, what you have to write? Suppose I say, I just want to print some message, system dot out dot println. And here what we will do is system dot out dot println. I want to print a message that drawing. But what is this? Actually, this is drawing a circle. But I need not write the circle message directly. I can just say the circle shape is stored in which variable? Name. So I'll just say drawing, maybe a message as drawing a, whatever the name of the shape, it should be able to display, plus drawing a dash, maybe I say width, what it has, radius, and what is the variable name for radius is this one. So what it will do, the draw method of circle class is going to print a message as drawing a circle with radius, whatever the value you pass it. And same way, what you will do for erase is writing the same message. Instead of drawing, I'll just say it is erasing. So that means in shape method, we were writing drawing and erasing a particular name of the shape. And while overriding, what we are doing, we are writing the message as drawing with radius and erasing with radius. That is name of the shape. So this is one of the subclass, that is circle, which is extended from shape class. Same like after circle, we have to also create one more subclass called as triangle. So how do you create a subclass triangle is, again, you have to write class. Name of the class is triangle. I will establish a relation with the help of inheritance keyword, that is extends, which is the parent class or which is a superclass is shape. I will start the class. In this class also, I will say it will have name is already there in the superclass, so I need not write it again. So what we will do is in triangle, what are the other parameters I can set other than name of the shape as triangle is base and height. So I'll just say, suppose we have two different parameters, base and height of the triangle. We will have what is the constructor triangle with two parameters. First is name of the triangle, comma, next is base, and next is height. And in this method, what it should do, again, it should call a parent class constructor for setting up the name of the shape. And whatever the parameters you are setting in the variables base and height, that should go into the instance variable. So I'll write this dot base is equal to base and this dot height is equal to height. This is what you will do. And after this, again, you have to override two methods. So I'll just copy it from the circle class. I'll just paste it in the triangle class. And instead of radius, I will say width, base, and height. Rest all will remain same. And here it should be base plus maybe some space you want plus height. And same thing, you will be writing it in erasing method. Like this. So this draw and erase method of triangle class is going to display that you are trying to draw or drawing a triangle with the parameters of triangle. And what are the parameters or what are the attributes for triangle? Additional attributes you can say is base and height. So like this, you have created one more class, that is triangle. Along with that, you have to also create one more subclass called as square. So again, you will create one more class with square. Again, it is a subclass. That means you have to extend the class from shape class. And same thing you will repeat here. You will be having for square, what is the additional attribute or member, data member you take it. Like in circle, we have taken radius. For triangle, we have taken base and height. Same way for square, what we can take. So for square, we can say all the four sides are equal. So I can just go for one single data member that is called a side of the square. So I can say that is also of type double and name of the variable is side. You will have the constructor with the parameters like name of the shape, and the next is what is side. Same way. How will you set the name of the shape as square? Call the superclass constructor by passing the name. Then set the side into a local parameter to the instance variable. You'll say this dot side is equal to side. And after constructor is done, again, we will be overriding these two methods, that is draw and erase. So I will just copy paste it. And here, what is the parameter that we have to give is only site. I'll just write here as site. Okay, same way. So this is how we have overridden the methods in all three subclasses from a superclass. Now we have to demonstrate it. We have to call these methods and how method overriding or runtime polymorphism is happening, that we have to demonstrate. So how do you do that is that we'll be doing it in the main function. And the class name for main function, we have given it as shape main, for which the name of the file is also shapemain.java. Now, all these subclasses what we have created, whether it is triangle, square or circle, all these three subclasses are from the main class. So we can always have a superclass variable reference to the subclass object. Superclass variable can be used to have a subclass object. So can we create, or can we say that there are three variables of shape in which the first variable will refer to circle, second variable will refer to triangle, and third variable will refer to square. So we can do that. So what we will do is I'll just have a reference variable that is shape. Now, as you have more than one shapes, I can just say that this is of type, this is nothing but of type array. That means it is going to return three different shapes. And what is the name? I'll just say, suppose the object name is shapes. And this memory should be allocated of which type? Shape type, with what is the size? 3. So this statement is nothing but you are creating an array of objects, and object is of which class? Shape class. And how many objects you can store it in this variable is 3 objects. Now, shapes is a variable which can hold 3 objects, but all 3 objects are of type shape. So suppose I say the first object I want to refer it to circle, second object I want to refer it to triangle, and the third one to refer it to square. So I can definitely do that. I'll just say shapes of 0. That means what? The first object, that is value stored at, or the object stored at 0th position. Shapes 0. It is a reference variable which is referring to the circle object. So I'll just say shape 0 is nothing but new. Which type? Circle type. Now, I want to call the constructor of a circle here. So circle constructor, parameterized constructor, we have done with 2 different parameters. First is name. So what is the name of a shape? Shape is, suppose I say circle. And suppose I want to give some radius, suppose 5 or 5.5, as it is of type double. So I have created an object for a circle using the superclass variable shapes. The second reference, that is at position number 1, suppose I want to have a reference to the object of triangle. So with triangle, what are the parameters we have to set? Name of the triangle or name of the shape, which you say that is called as triangle, base and height. So what is the name of a shape here? I want to set it as triangle. What is the base? Suppose 2.5, some value, suppose 5.7, something like this. Okay, so shapes 1 is pointing to triangle. Same way, you can have the reference, that is shapes 2 is pointing to, or it is having a reference to the subclass object called as square. Again, in square also you can see there are 2 parameters. One is name of the shape and one is the side of the shape. So which is the shape? You just say it's a square. Square is the name of the shape. And what is the side? Suppose I say 10. This is what. So I have created 3 different objects now through a superclass reference variable, that is shapes, which is of type array of type shape. Array of shape. So shape 0 is pointing to circle with the name of the shape as circle with radius 5.5. Same way, triangle, name of the shape is triangle and base and height is given. And name of the shape for square is square with the side 10. Now, after creating these 3 objects, we have to now demonstrate, or we need to call draw and erase method for all these particular objects. So how do you do that is, Anyway, all these values are stored in a single shape type of array variable or array object. So can I have one object at a time, and I will demonstrate all these shapes one after the other. So the best iteration control statement which we can go here is a for each loop, where I can just say that shape 0 is also of type shape, shapes 1 is also of type shape, and shapes 2 is also type of, that is shape only. So that means shapes is nothing but a collection which contains multiple shapes in terms of objects. So I can just say every value of this particular collection is an object of type shape. I write suppose a small case shape is a temporary variable from the collection shapes. That means I'm using here the for each loop where the name of the collection is shapes. So shapes being a variable, it has 3 values, and for every iteration, it will take one value at a time, and that value will be demonstrated. So shapes, when it enters into the iteration for the first time, the collection shapes will have shapes of 0, that is circle. So shapes of 0, that is circle, will be stored in the object shape. And now this object, that is shape object, is first time pointing to circle. Next iteration, it will point it out to triangle. And the third iteration, it will take it as square. So now I want to call draw and erase method for these particular shape. So what is the name of a temporary object? Shape dot. What I want to call? I want to call a method as draw. Same way, after this, I want to call a method erase. So shape, here you can see this is a temporary object which is of type shape, and it will hold the value one at a time. It will hold the value one at a time from the collection, that is shapes. And what shapes contains? Shapes contains 3 values. 0th is circle, first position is triangle, and second position is square. And suppose after every shape, I want some particular blank line to come and all. So I can always write system dot out dot println. So this message, if I write this statement, if I write it, it is going to display a blank line after calling the draw and erase method of the respective shape. So for every iteration, for every shape, you will see that there is a blank line between the output. So this is how we have written. So if you go through the program again, we have created a superclass called as shape with the parameters as name of the shape, constructor, and the methods to be overridden in the subclasses. We have created subclasses. Suppose we want circle being a member should be accessible only within the circle. I can always make it as private. Again, it is as per the demand or as per the problem statement. I'll make it this also private. Even side as also private, so that this member variable, that is a side variable, will not be accessed outside the class. And then I have created the objects for that particular shapes using the superclass variable, and created those subclass objects with the same value and demonstrated with the methods. We'll just run this program. We'll see what will be the output. You can see here. This is what output we have got. See here. First 2 lines is output from the first object from the superclass, that is pointing to circle. The next 2 lines is for triangle, and next 2 lines is for square. So here if you say draw method, this is the output which we got it from draw method. So what message we had written? Drawing. Here we had given a variable name, that is name. So whenever you say name, as it is pointing to circle, what is the parameter you have passed here? Parameter you have passed is what? Circle. So what is the name of object is circle. That will be stored in a name variable, and that is displayed here on the screen. And with the radius, that is 5.5. And same thing is going to display for erase method using or with the output statement as erasing a circle. And same way, it will have draw and erase method executed for the next 2 objects, that is triangle and square. So here you can say this is called as method overriding. You have overridden 2 various methods, that is draw and erase, from the shape class to the subclasses, that is circle, triangle, and square. This is how the program can be demonstrated or executed. If you want to read the values from the user like radius, side, and base height and all, so you can always use a scanner class, read the values through keyboard and pass those particular values while creating the object at this particular place. I hope you understood lab program number 5. In the next lecture video, I'll be explaining you lab program number 6. Hope you all understood it. You have learned it. Thank you so much for the patience listening. Thank you.